Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ Hero. Welcome to tonight's program. Now our headlines.
2 people were reportedly killed and 26 others missing as Typhoon Molave hit central Vietnam.
People in France and Germany were bracing Wednesday for tough new curbs on their daily lives as Europe struggled to contain an alarming surge in coronavirus cases with winter looming.
And Joe Biden placed Donald Trump with accusations the U.S. president has surrendered to a surging pandemic as the Democrat takes his campaign to the Republican stronghold of Georgia 1 week before the U.S. election.
And this is my husband, Manuel.
And the parents of Joaquin Oliver, who was killed at 17 during a mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida in 2018, appear in a campaign ad with a digital likeness of their son created using deep fake technology. In the ad, Guac, as he was affectionately known, calls on people to vote to end gun violence.
2 people were reportedly killed and 26 others missing as Typhoon Molave hit central Vietnam on Wednesday. Now, Vietnam is still recovering from severe flooding and landslides that killed more than 130 people and left dozens missing in 3 provinces. Joining us from Vietnam is Charlene Navaja. Hello, Charlene.
Hi, Alma. Good evening to you and to everyone who's watching. So you're right about that. 2 dead and 26 missing as Typhoon Molave slams into Vietnam. 2 people were reported killed and 26 others missing as Typhoon Molave hit central Vietnam today, knocking down trees and tearing roofs off homes in some of the worst destruction seen in years. Authorities relocated around 375,000 people to safety. They canceled hundreds of flights and closed schools and beaches ahead of the typhoon, which made landfall south of Da Nang, packing winds of up to 145 kilometers per hour. That's around 85 miles per hour. State media said at least 2 people were killed in Quang Ngai province while trying to protect their homes from the storm. Officials were also searching for 26 missing fishermen, with the storm Vietnam's 4th this month, bringing waves up to 6 meters high as power was cut off across the region. Deputy Prime Minister Ching Ding-zung said Navy and surveillance vessels were deployed to look for the crew members after their 2 boats disappeared after they attempted to dock. A fishing ban has been in place since Tuesday, while all airports in the area were closed until further notice. The typhoon comes on the back of weeks of severe flooding and landslides that have claimed 130 lives and damaged or destroyed more than 310,000 homes, according to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. So the IFRC warned close to 1.2 million people were in severe danger and in need of relief. Back to you, Alma.
All right, Charlene, you just mentioned that there was, Vietnam is still dealing with floodings that has killed more than 130 people now. Are there any measures that the government is doing right now to ease the misery of the residents there due to flooding?
Yes, that's right, Alma. They have. So the United Nations Development Program, or the UNDP, has already mobilized $100,000 from emergency resources for vulnerable and flood-affected people in the central region by building resilient houses. And this information was actually released by UNDP experts at a briefing co-organized by the government and the United Nations in Vietnam at the Office of the National Steering Committee for National Disaster and Prevention and Control. So Ms. Caitlin Wyson, so the UNDP resident representative in Vietnam, highlighted that UNDP will continue its ongoing support efforts by focusing on an integrated approach to disaster risk management, including planting mangroves to serve as storm surge buffers and raising awareness of climate change and disaster risk in communities and local authorities in 7 coastal provinces. And the UNDP, so they will also support the Vietnam Disaster Management Authority and the 5 most affected provinces to develop comprehensive flood risk maps to support development planning. So they will integrate flood risk reduction measures. So it is expected that the impact of future floods will be reduced.
All right. Thank you very much, Charlene, for your updates there in Vietnam. Looking forward to more. Thank you. Stay safe.
You too, Alma. So this has been Charlene Navaja reporting live from Hanoi, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Firefighters in California are making little progress so far against wind-blown wildfires that have forced thousands of people from their homes. 2 fires burned dangerously close to subdivisions along the foothills of Santa Ana Mountains. Let's watch this.
Take this time and update all of you on the extreme weather that we're experiencing here in the state of California, and a year of extremes where, as I've said often, the hots are getting hotter, the dries are getting drier, the wets, we're looking forward to winter season in these atmospheric rivers, the wets are getting wetter. The winds are also whipping up. This time is typical. The Diablo and the Santa Ana winds tend to present themselves, but we have seen some really extraordinary wind events in the last 48 hours. Subsequent, not surprisingly, the challenges with low humidity and the dry air is creating these rather extreme and dangerous fire conditions throughout the state of California. Just to put it in perspective, we had wind gusts of 140 miles per hour. I mean, those are hurricane level winds in Kirkwood and their ridgetop. 140 mile an hour wind gusts, 96 mile an hour wind gusts around the San Gabriel Mountains. And of course, those of you down in Orange County know well the extraordinary gusts that you're experiencing and just the ongoing winds. But 88 miles per hour was recorded just in Orange County. So we have these red flag warnings. The red flag warnings we anticipate to end today in Northern California, that we believe and we anticipate by 5 o'clock today for the substantial portions of Northern California. The red flag warnings will end in Southern California later into the evening around 11 p.m. Broadly, we will experience a reduction in the winds between now and Thursday, but the most extreme wind events, we believe, will present themselves later today in the evening.
More than 90,000 people fled their homes near Los Angeles on Monday as 2 fast-spreading and uncontained wildfires raged across more than 14,600 acres, blocking key roadways and critically injuring 2 firefighters. The larger Silverado fire erupted early in the morning in the foothills of Irvine, about 37 miles or 60 kilometers southeast of Los Angeles, and quickly spread, fueled by dry conditions and erratic winds that prevented firefighting aircraft from flying. A second fast-growing blaze in Yorba Linda, about 17 miles north of Irvine and dubbed the Blue Ridge Fire, erupted early afternoon on Monday. The National Weather Service warned that the combination of low humidity, dry vegetation, and strong winds had created the most dangerous fire weather conditions this year. State officials have pointed to climate change as a significant cause of the wildfire surge. Climate change amplifies droughts, which dry out regions, creating ideal conditions for wildfires to spread out of control and inflict unprecedented material and environmental damage.
And still in the U.S., the city of Philadelphia is on edge after police shot and killed a black man on Monday, sparking protests. Officers say they opened fire when Walter Wallace refused to put down a knife and moved toward them. But his family says the 27-year-old has mental health issues. Take a look.
My position should be clear that that was an unjustified shooting. I think you saw it as well. We all saw it. It's an unjustified shooting. We have a person who has mental health issues. We're going to vet those out as the process continues. But we have officers who I think are not properly trained to deal with those mental health issues. What I said was his wife told them that he was manic and bipolar when the officers were standing at the foot of these steps.
This office has made clear that we believe in fairness, we believe in even-handed justice.
Now, local media reported that two officers shot Wallace around 4 p.m. local time on Monday afternoon after he refused to drop the knife as his mother tried to restrain him. The phone video of the killing posted on social media showed Wallace push his mother away and then walk towards the police. He was rushed to Penn Presbyterian Medical Center where he died. The shooting of Wallace comes a week after an officer in Wyken, north of Chicago, shot dead a 19-year-old black man, Marcellus Stinnett, when he opened fire on his vehicle. Meanwhile, around 30 police officers were injured in the violent protest, more than a dozen people arrested, cars set aflame, and stores looted. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's office announced the deployment of several hundred National Guard troops to the city to protect the right to peacefully assemble and protest while keeping people safe. The U.S. has seen a wave of protests and rioting since the police killing of George Floyd in May in Minnesota, when an officer was filmed pressing his knee to handcuff George Floyd's neck until he went limp.
U.S. President Donald Trump was barnstorming in a last-ditch effort to keep Midwest states, while challenger Joe Biden was aiming to flip a Republican bastion as rage over police violence erupted anew. Here's a look at what's happening in America's campaign on Tuesday, 1 week before the November 3 election day.
I will deliver record prosperity, epic job growth, and a safe vaccine that eradicates the virus and quickly ends the pandemic. And we're making that final turn. They don't want to hear it. We're making that turn. You know that, right? We're going to have the vaccine anyway, with or without it. We're making the turn. Normal life will fully resume. That's all we want. We want normal life. But, you know, the polls say he can't win. Well, right now we're leading in almost everywhere. We're leading almost everywhere.
You think you got it, oh, you think you got it, but got it, just don't get it, 'cause there's nothing at all.
Thank you for that incredible introduction. My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband, and I am Kamala's running mate. We win Georgia, we win everything. God bless you all. Let's give the people of Georgia 2 new senators who fight for your interests, not for Donald Trump's interests. And not continue, as Perdue and others have, to make fun of my running mate. I love how these guys try to degrade everything and everybody. It's got to stop, and it's going to stop with us. Folks, it's go time. There's 1 week left. At the debate last week, Donald Trump looked at me and said, we're rounding the corner. As my grandfather would say, he's rounding the bend.
Election tracking website of Real Clear Politics has Biden up 7.4 points in an average of national polls, a slight drop from just days ago. He also leads Trump by 9 points in Michigan, and in Wisconsin is up by an average of 5.5 points. Trump dismissed the polls in a tweet on Tuesday and accused the media of focusing on COVID to hurt his re-election chances.
Meanwhile, First Lady Melania Trump had made her first campaign appearance in Pennsylvania, another state President Trump won 4 years ago, but where Biden is leading the polls. She praised the president as a fighter. Take a look.
For the first time in history, the citizens of this country get to hear directly and instantly from their president every single day through social media. I do not always agree with the way he says things, but it is important to him that he speaks directly to the people he serves. Before I begin, thank you for all the love and support you gave us when our family was diagnosed with COVID-19. We are all feeling so much better now, thanks to healthy living and some of the amazing therapeutic options available in our country. Thank you again for your well wishes.
President Trump's wife was due to visit Erie, Pennsylvania last week, but she opted not to travel, citing a lingering cough from her bout of coronavirus.
Former U.S. President Barack Obama was back stumping for his former vice president in Florida, telling a rally, and I quote, "We got 1 week, Orlando, 1 week until the most important election of our times." Let's watch this.
Joe takes this seriously. He knows the emotional toll on grandparents when they can't see and hug their grandkids. He's not going to screw up testing. He's not going to call scientists idiots. He's not going to host super spreader events at the White House and then take it on a tour all across the country. Listen, you've got a president right now, he wants full credit for an economy that he inherited. He wants zero blame for the pandemic he ignored. But you know what? The job doesn't work that way. You've got to be responsible 24/7. You got to pay attention 24/7. Tweeting at the TV doesn't fix things. Watching TV all day doesn't fix things. Making stuff up doesn't fix things. We got 1 week, Orlando. 1 week. Si se puede. 1 week until the most important election of our lifetimes. Honk if you're fired up. Honk if you're ready to go. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? I'm fired up. Let's go do this thing. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, hit Nevada, which went for Hillary Clinton in 2016. There, she told reporters she and Biden believe they have to earn votes. Take a look.
Joe Biden says that we're not going to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000, and we are going to create a middle-class tax cut, and we are going to make sure working families don't pay more than 7% of their income in child care, and we will make sure that first-time home buyers have a $15,000 tax credit for down payment and closing costs, knowing that is the best way working people can have intergenerational wealth. Joe Biden has the courage to speak the truth, that there are racial disparities that span our healthcare system to our economy, to our educational systems, and we must speak truth no matter how uncomfortable it may be to hear.
The parents of Joaquin Oliver, who was killed at 17 during a mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida in 2018, appear in a campaign ad with a digital likeness of their son created using deep fake technology. In the ad, Guac, as he was affectionately called, calls on people to vote or to end gun violence. Take a look.
I am Patricia Oliver, and this is my husband, Manuel. 2 years ago, our beautiful son, Joaquin, was shot and killed at Parkland. Every day I think about him and what his last moments must have been like.
Every day, nearly 100 more families lose someone they love to gun violence. Every single day, we keep telling people it doesn't have to be like this. They don't listen. So we found a way to bring back someone that no one will ignore.
Yo, it's me. It's Guac. I've been gone for 2 years and nothing's changed, bro. People are still getting killed by guns. What is that? Everyone knows it, but they don't do anything. I'm tired of waiting for someone to fix it. The election in November is the first one I could have voted in, but I'll never get to choose the kind of world I wanted to live in. So you've got to replace my vote. Register, then go vote. Vote for politicians who care more about people's lives than the gun lobby's money. Vote for people not getting shot, bro. I mean, vote for me, because I can't. We've got to keep on fighting, and we got to end this.
Now, with just a week to go, actually 6 days before the November 3 election in the United States, here's a look back at 7 battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Florida, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Ohio, that will help decide if President Trump gets to stay in the White House or whether Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden will replace him. Take a look.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we are going to win 4 more great years in the White House.
I'm not banning fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. And I'm going to protect Pennsylvania jobs, period.
Can you imagine if I lost to him? I'd have to say I lost to the worst candidate ever put up. Don't do that to me, Michigan.
He said, we have turned the corner. Grandfather Finnegan might say, we were here, he said, he's gone around the bend. Turn the corner. My Lord.
We're rounding the turn. We're doing great. Our numbers are incredible. And despite the fact that they're keeping certain states, North Carolina, get your governor to open up your state, please. This guy should be defeated.
We need leadership that de-escalates tensions, opens lines of communication, and brings us together to heal and to hope. As president, that's precisely what I'll do.
I hear we're doing very well in Florida, and we're doing very well, I hear, every place else. So thank you very much, and you're going to be very busy today because we're going to work you hard.
Who did you vote for today?
I voted for a guy named Trump.
You can make all the difference. Here in Florida, you can determine the outcome of this election. We win Florida, and it's all over.
I didn't get to speak to the mother. I hear she's a fine woman. I've heard that from the pastor, a really fine woman. But you can see when I spoke to the pastors, I see exactly what it is, and they understand where I am.
Had an opportunity to spend some time with Jacob on the phone. He's out of ICU. We spoke for about 15 minutes. His brother and 2 sisters, his dad, and his mom on the telephone.
You turn on CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying at CNN, you dumb bastards. They're not buying it.
The words of a president matter. Whether they can, if you've heard me say this before, they can cause a nation to have the market rise or fall, go to war, bring peace, but they can also breathe oxygen into those who are filled with hate.
This guy is shot. I mean, if he makes it, It's going to be, I'm going to come back to Dayton, I'm going to say, what the hell happened?
This is the most important election of our lifetimes. Not because I'm running, because what's at stake.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo Wednesday declared Sri Lanka as a powerful strategic partner of the United States and warned the island that its key financer, China, was a predator. Watch this.
Indeed, a strong sovereign Sri Lanka is a powerful and strategic partner for the United States on the world stage. It can be a beacon for a free and open Indo-Pacific. Look, that's quite a contrast to what China seeks. We see from bad deals, violations of sovereignty and lawlessness on land and sea that the Chinese Communist Party is a predator. And the United States comes in a different way. We come as a friend and as a partner.
Pompeo arrived from India, where he stepped up anti-Chinese comments, which are expected to be a theme of an Asian tour that will take him onto the Maldives and Indonesia. Earlier this month, Yang Jiechi, a Chinese Community Party Politburo member, pledged more economic help to Sri Lanka during a visit. Colombo has leaned heavily on China for loans and diplomatic support to fight off allegations of human rights violations, particularly in the final months of a decades-long civil war in 2009. Washington has insisted on credible investigations into charges that Sri Lankan troops killed at least 40,000 civilians while crushing Tamil Tiger rebels.
In other news now, Australian Premier Scott Morrison said he is appalled by invasive examinations of female passengers carried out at the Doha airport. According to Australian media reports, staff at Hamad International Airport in Doha discovered a premature baby abandoned in a toilet at the airport. Now, women on the plane, including 13 Australians, were then taken off the flight and subjected to invasive naked inspections in an ambulance without their consent. Take a look.
We find this unacceptable. That's been the official message and conveyed very clearly in the investigation that, and it is, because it is unacceptable. I mean, it was appalling. As father of daughters, I could only shudder at the thought that any woman, Australian or otherwise, would be subjected to that. We expect to see the result of that investigation very soon, and that will be shared with us. That's been assured to us by the Qatari government. And so it is important that wherever travellers are travelling, that they're able to do so free of those types of incidents. And so we will continue to take a very strident approach on this. We are appalled by what occurred, as anyone would, not just as an Australian, but any traveller would. They should not be subject to these invasive procedures.
The Prime Minister, Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa bin Abdulaziz Al Thani, said in a statement that a comprehensive, transparent investigation would be carried out. He also added that Qatar was committed to ensuring the safety, security, and comfort of all travelers transiting through the country. The incident has sparked a diplomatic row between Australia and Doha, with Canberra lodging protests with the Middle East nation over the treatment of its citizens on Wednesday. It also emerged that the number of planes targeted was much greater than first thought. Australia's Foreign Minister Marise Payne told Parliament women on 10 aircraft in total had been subjected to the searches she has described as grossly disturbing and offensive. Eagle News will be right back.
Noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Motorists who fail to install a radio frequency identification or RFID stickers in their vehicles before entering an expressway or a toll road would be issued citations and fined after the new December 1 deadline for mandatory cashless transactions in toll roads. In a message to reporters on Wednesday, Department of Transportation Assistant Secretary Goddess Hope Libiran said disobedient drivers can be issued a ticket for disregarding traffic signs with a fine of 1,000 pesos. She said an obstruction violation with a corresponding 1,000 peso fine can also be issued to a driver who attempts to enter a toll road, since they will get stuck behind a toll barrier and obstruct the flow of traffic. Following the DOTR's decision to push the deadline for mandatory cashless transactions in tollways to December 1st, she said motorists would have or have now been given 4 months to comply with the directive. The full implementation of cashless transactions in toll roads was scheduled to take effect on November 2nd, but was again reset to December 1st. The DOTR said the deadline for the measure would no longer be extended.
Australia's second biggest city, Melbourne, reopened to exhilaration and relief on Wednesday as residents began trickling back to shops and restaurants after a months-long coronavirus lockdown was lifted. Take a look.
I've been here since 12 a.m. So I'm waiting until 10 a.m. for them to open the store for me to buy shoes.
So we're actually standing at the front of the Foot Locker store, queuing up for a potential drop. Few pairs of shoes that are releasing. Hopefully pick up a few pairs.
Maybe buy some gift, buy some clothes, something like that.
What an exciting day to be able to open up to our Melbourne customers. We've really been awaiting this day for very long, so a big day for us. The first days are really going to be interesting. Not 100% sure whether customers are still going to be cautious to come in.
Australia's government had estimated the lockdown cost 1,000 jobs a day. Melbourne and the surrounding state of Victoria had been the epicenter of Australia's second wave of COVID-19 infections, with a peak of more than 700 new cases occurring back in August. The state registered 2 new cases and 2 deaths from the disease on Wednesday, moving the 14-day average to just under 3 cases a day. With tracing and testing regimes beefed up, authorities hope that further clusters can be contained. Restrictions on travel between Melbourne and regional parts of the state will also be lifted from November 8, with a 25-kilometer travel radius for city residents set to be removed the same day. But for now, the state remains cut off from the rest of Australia, which overall has recorded about 27,500 cases and 907 deaths out of a population of 25 million.
Australia's control of its outbreak stood in stark contrast to the surging virus in Europe, with Germany regularly reporting 10,000 new infections every day, daily cases in France topping 50,000, and hospitals in Belgium nearing capacity. Chancellor Angela Merkel is seeking drastic new curbs, including fresh shutdowns hitting leisure, sports, and the food and drink sectors, in crisis talks Wednesday with Germany's regional leaders to halt surging coronavirus infections and save the holiday season. The proposed restrictions, to come in force from November 4 to the end of the month, would limit contact outdoors to people from 2 households. Schools, daycares, and shops will remain open, but hotels will be allowed to offer overnight stays only for necessary and expressly non-tourist purposes. Bars, cafes, restaurants would also have to shut down, although takeaways and delivery services can keep going. Under the federal system, individual states have the final say on which restrictions to impose, and some less affected regions are likely to bristle at measures that will inflict more economic pain.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa began self-quarantining himself after he attended a dinner with a guest who tested positive for the coronavirus. The president is showing no symptoms at this time and will, in line with COVID-19 health advice, be tested should symptoms manifest. On Saturday, October 24, the president attended a fundraising dinner of the Adopt a School Foundation, which is a partner entity of the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. The president is screened regularly by the South African Military Health Service and subjects himself to screening at venues where he participates in engagements. The president will perform his duties remotely and will observe the guidelines that apply to self-quarantine.
All in-person meetings at the UN were canceled Tuesday for the rest of the week after a member state reported 5 staffers had tested positive for coronavirus. The UN Medical Service recommended the cancellation pending contact tracing of the sick people. The president of the UN General Assembly, Volkan Bozkir of Turkey, said in a letter Monday evening to the 193 UN member states. Bozkir did not say which UN mission reported the COVID infection, but a source close to the matter said it was Niger, which currently has a non-permanent seat on the Security Council. The 15-member council had planned to hold a monthly face-to-face meeting on Tuesday in Syria, but this will be conducted virtually.
Russia Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will self-isolate after coming into contact with someone who had tested positive for COVID-19, according to his ministry. Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova wrote on Facebook that the minister, 70 years old, feels well, but that planned visits and meetings will be postponed to a later date. On Monday, Lavrov was on a working visit to Athens, where he was photographed wearing a mask during meetings with Greek officials. According to Russian daily Kommersant, this was only the second time Mr. Lavrov was seen wearing a mask at a public event since the start of the outbreak. Russia has the 4th highest virus caseload in the world, with a total of 1,547,774 registered infections and 26,589 deaths.
The World Health Organization has warned that Europe is well behind in the fight against COVID-19, adding that the area has become an epicenter for the disease again. Let's watch this.
Maria covered it, but again, just to say that in the last week, 46% of all the global cases in the world were from what our European region is. Not that obviously extends from Vladivostok to Reykjavik, so it's a larger conceptual footprint than the European Union, and about nearly 1/3 of global death. So there's no question that the European region is an epicenter for disease right now. And as Maria said, though, that's not consistent across the whole. The DG said something very important, I think. He said we need to get ahead of this virus, and then we need to stay ahead of this virus. And sometimes in a race, you can use certain tactics at a certain time. Right now, we're well behind this virus in Europe. So getting ahead of it is going to take some serious acceleration in what we do, and maybe a much more comprehensive nature of measures that are going to be needed to catch up with and get ahead of this virus. But as we've seen in other countries, once you get ahead of the virus, but once we do get ahead, we can't squander that opportunity. We have to put in place stronger measures to keep ahead of the virus. The difficulty in Europe, and particularly in the European Union, and this is a genuine difficulty, the European Union is an economic, social integration organization that has had huge success in bringing social, economic rights, environmental rights, and many things across Europe. It is in its construction probably prevented a Third World War and was constructed so we could come away from a huge conflagration in the middle of the 20th century. In that sense, it is built on a principle of openness and transparency and sharing of responsibilities. And it is not so easy in that context to put barriers and walls up again when Europe has spent 50, 70 years trying to break down barriers and break down walls.
Maria Van Kerkhove, the WHO's technical lead on the pandemic, also voiced concern about the situation in Europe, pointing to a surge in hospital admissions and rapidly filling intensive care units. Daily cases of COVID-19 in France have topped 50,000, while Germany is regularly reporting 10,000 new infections. Across the world, the coronavirus has infected close to 44 million people, with well over 1.1 million deaths.
Now, in the United States, President Trump and his challenger Joe Biden are trading barbs over the handling of the pandemic as campaigning enters the final week ahead of the November 3 vote. The U.S. is reporting tens of thousands of new cases every day, with the overall caseload past 9 million and a death toll of over 232,000.
After the U.S., India is the most infected nation on the planet, with nearly 8 million cases and tens of thousands of new infections daily. After imposing a strict lockdown in March, it has loosened restrictions to revive its battered economy. On Wednesday, millions of Indians turned out to vote in state polls in Bihar, the world's biggest election since the coronavirus emerged, with 70 million eligible voters. Booths were packed and many ignored government advice on wearing masks and social distancing.
And as the race to find a treatment or cure gathers pace, pharma giant Pfizer voiced measured optimism about the prospect of a vaccine becoming available this year. It said it could supply some 40 million doses in the U.S. if clinical testing proceeds as expected and regulatory approval is granted. Pfizer Chief Executive Albert Bourla said the company expects to file for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine in the third week of November, roughly in line with earlier timetables.
Drug makers Sanofi and GSK also said Wednesday they would set aside 200 million doses of a future coronavirus vaccine for a global initiative to ensure equitable distribution, including poor countries. The French and British drug giants said they had signed a statement of intent with the Gavi Alliance, which administers the COVAX plan for fair vaccine distribution. On Sunday, the World Health Organization warned against vaccine nationalism and underlined that global protection can only be attained with widespread vaccination. We still have a lot more updates for you. Please don't go away.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. The Japanese Embassy in Manila announced the disbursement of 10 billion yen, or about 4.63 billion pesos, of Japan's total 50 billion yen post-disaster loan to the Philippines. Japanese Ambassador Koji Haneda, in a statement, said JICA disbursed 10 billion yen out of the 50 billion yen post-disaster standby loan to the Philippines after its signing on September 15. This first tranche release was triggered by the extension of the state of calamity, allowing the Philippines to draw budgetary support for its COVID-19 pandemic response. The PDSL Phase 2 was signed last September 15 as a quick disbursing loan to ensure that contingency funds are available for the Philippines in times of natural disasters and public health crisis.
Deutsche Bank on Wednesday swung to a surprise net profit in the third quarter as it shook off losses driven by the coronavirus pandemic and plowed on with a wide-ranging restructuring. Germany's largest lender posted a net profit of 182 million euros compared with a loss of 942 million euros in the same period of the previous year. The results beat expectations for a loss of 82 million euros based on a survey by FactSet as Deutsche Bank started to move on from years of poor management and overblown investment banking ambitions with a transformation plan that launched last year. Last year, the bank said it would cut 18,000 jobs, and figures released Wednesday show it has already shed around 3,000 positions. Deutsche said in September that it would shutter around 100 branches, cutting its high street presence by a fifth, reflecting changes in customer behavior patterns. The group's third quarter results were once again driven by investment banking, which brought in 2.4 billion euros, up 43% year on year.
And India's Tata Motors reported wider losses for the July to September quarter Tuesday as the coronavirus pandemic hammered demand in domestic and international markets. The Mumbai-headquartered firm, which owns British luxury brand Jaguar Land Rover, announced a consolidated net loss of 3.14 billion rupees, or $42.61 million for the quarter ending September 30 against a loss of 2.17 billion rupees a year earlier. JLR sales were down nearly 12% compared to the same period the previous year as the virus crisis and uncertainty over Brexit weakened demand. Tata Motors revenues fell by 18.2% to 535.3 billion rupees, according to the firm. The company also said, however, that it expected sales to improve as lockdowns ease and supply chain bottlenecks are removed.
Sony on Wednesday said net profit doubled in the April to September period and revised up its full-year forecast, citing growth in key sectors including gaming, which has been boosted by coronavirus lockdowns nationwide. The results beat analyst expectations and came as the Japanese tech giant gears up to launch its much-anticipated PlayStation 5 console next month, setting up a holiday season head-to-head with the new Xbox. The gaming sector has been one of the few beneficiaries of the pandemic, with people forced indoors, sending title downloads and streaming soaring. Sony said net profit leaped 103.8% to 692.89 billion yen for the first half and forecast annual net profits of 800 billion yen, up from an earlier 510 billion yen forecast.
And airline industry revenues are expected to remain 46% lower in 2021 than the $838 billion booked in the last pre-coronavirus year of 2019, according to industry body IATA, in a marked worsening of its forecast. It said an expected demand recovery in the fourth quarter of 2020 is unlikely to materialize because of renewed COVID-19 outbreaks and government restrictions in response. IATA said even with drastic cost-cutting, airlines will need further government aid to avoid running out of cash. IATA also urged airports and air traffic controllers not to increase their prices to cover shortfalls from the vastly lower traffic. It also warned that relief for airlines this year on fuel costs, thanks to low oil prices, is expected to fade away in 2021.
And here are images that show a mural by Banksy in the central English city of Nottingham. Bicycle tire was claimed by the world-renowned British street artist a few days after it appeared.
And there he goes again.
Yeah, we love Banksy.
Yes.
Don't we? Well, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, join us tomorrow. I'm CJ Hero.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.